Hey everybody, Tony D and Little Joan here on a Piney podcast. And Little Joan, who I bought a separate camera for so she could sit in her little bed back there, always insists on being here. Right, Joan? Right? You like to be to where the action is. You don't like being back there when I'm talking. It's like you're missing out on something. But let's get into it. New Jersey reports 2,089 beer virus cases, which sounds like a lot. Except the deaths are at 7. They're at 7. Okay? They're hovering around 10, a little less. And because of the way these deaths have been reported, they probably aren't even all from today. So, meanwhile, look at this headline. First time cases have hit 2K since early May. Oh God, no! Run to the hills! The death rate is exactly the same. That means, as a percentage, fewer people are dying. Assuming we can even trust these numbers, which we can't because they're not reporting the deaths by the day. They're going back into the medical records and trying to tie people into the beer virus. I was just told by a friend of mine who has a friend. Her husband passed away, unfortunately. He did not test positive for the beer virus. And yet, they are marking his death down as the beer virus. Anecdotal? I guess. But how many times have we heard this story? A lot. I've heard it a lot. And meanwhile, what is our brilliant Tyrant Governor Phil Murphy doing? Well, he signed a bill to mass release prison inmates starting November 4th, right after the election. oh, you reelected Donald Trump? Here's a bunch of criminals. Now, in his defense, these aren't murderers or rapists, which, okay, good for him. But he is releasing them because of the beer virus. But, Jesus, man. An estimated 2,088 prisoners to walk out of prison on November 4th. The early reduction is trying to reduce the prison population by as much as 20% because of the beer virus. Here's a thought. Legalize drugs. Legalize weed. Wouldn't be putting so many people in jail. Legalize prostitution. You wouldn't be putting so many people in jail. Under the new law, juvenile and adult inmates who have less than 12 months on their sentences left to serve are eligible to be released as much as 8 months early. Sex offenders will be eligible for early release if they have not been determined to have committed repetitive and compulsive acts, according to the news outlet. Inmates convicted of murder or aggravated assault will be ineligible. Well, thanks. I can only imagine the optics of you letting sex offenders out of prison, Murphy. You dummy. But I don't think you really care. I really don't. You seem to be pursuing a woke agenda, but it feels woke light. Like, you're kind of doing the same stuff they're doing out on the West Coast, only a lighter version of it. Just kind of trying it out. I'm against this. I'm against this because, first off, where are these people going to work? We have tons of people out of work. You're hurting these people by letting them out early. And I'm totally serious about that. Now, look, I don't want people put in jail for petty crimes to begin with. But, and if this is weed, let them out. If it's prostitution, let them out, I say. But other than that, I mean, if these guys stole stuff and they got sentenced, I mean, if you're going to let these guys out early, why did you put them in the first place? You're basically admitting that the punishment for the crimes these people have committed were too harsh to begin with. And guess what? You're going to be filling up the prisons with these rioters, or at least you should be. Unless I guess Murphy will get woke when they finally come to New Jersey. I don't know if they're ever going to make it to New Jersey because Antifa is considered a terrorist organization here. But we'll see. I know a lot of them live in New Jersey. But wait, there's more. New Jersey governor issues executive order addressing COVID, beer virus, health and safety requirements for employers. See why prisoners go free. Your workplace becomes a prison. Minimum health and safety protocols. Beginning on Thursday, November 5th, all employers that require or permit their workers to be, or permit, like require or permit. In other words, any worker on site to be physically present in the office to perform work must at minimum abide by the following requirements. Physical distancing. We already know this. Employers must require that individuals maintain at least 6 feet of distance from one another to the maximum extent possible. How can they enforce this? They're just trying to do it. That's all. What are you going to do? Send cops? I saw you had this board meeting where people were a little close. You really could have put those chairs further apart. I mean, what are you doing? Who's going to violate this? Face coverings. Employees must require employees, visitors, and customers 2 years of age and older to wear face coverings, except when employees are at their workstations and are more than 6 feet apart and other individuals. Individuals are alone in a walled office or doing so is impractical due to the nature of the business. Who defines that? Employers must provide face coverings at no cost to employees. The order also requires that employers provide reasonable accommodations to employees, customers, and visitors who cannot wear a mask because of a disability. First off, everybody's on board with all this, Murphy. You don't need to shove it down our throats. Sanitation materials. Employers must provide sanitation materials such as hand sanitizer that contains at least 60% alcohol, sanitizing wipes that are approved by the EPA for beer virus at no cost to employees, customers, and visitors. Hand hygiene. Employers must ensure that employees practice regular hand hygiene. How? How are you going to do that? Are you going to inspect your employees' hands? And then provide employees with 1, break times for repeated hand washing throughout the workday? Are you insane? How many times? And 2, access to adequate hand washing facilities. We already have restrooms everywhere. What are you talking about? How are you going to enforce this? Cleaning. Employees must clean and disinfect all high-touch areas in accordance with DOH and CDC guidelines. I don't know what that is, but I assume you got to keep it clean. Again, how are you going to enforce that? Are you going to show up randomly, places of business? Oh, this doesn't look very clean. Daily health checks. Here's where it gets really Orwellian. Prior to each shift, employers must conduct daily health checks of employees, such as temperature screenings, visual symptom checking, self-assessment checklist, and or health questionnaires. The order does not explicitly require health checks for customers and visitors. Oh, well, thanks for that. Thanks for that. First off, it's already been determined by science, by trial and error, months out. The Chinese were checking people's temperatures, and we've already determined that's useless. If you have a temperature, you may not have beer virus. If you don't have a temperature, you may have it. That's not an indicator. It's a false indicator. You're telling people to do a daily health check that means nothing. Again, you're just making people jump through hoops, and it will do nothing. Beer virus cases in the workplace. Employers must immediately separate and send home employees who appear to have symptoms consistent with beer virus. Oh, great. Everybody has to be a doctor now? Employers must also, one, promptly notify all employees of any known exposure to beer virus at the worksite in accordance with the confidentiality requirements under Americans with Disability Acts and other applicable law. I don't even know what that means. I guess you have to whisper it to everybody and not tell anybody, not tell you who got infected. And two, clean and disinfect the worksite in accordance with CDC guidelines. Well, that obviously makes sense. But Jesus, penalties for non-compliance. Here it comes. Here it comes. This is basically a bunch of new rules so that New Jersey, once in a while, can show up to your business and shake you down for money. The order authorizes the Commissioner and Department of Labor and Workforce Development to establish a mechanism to receive and investigate complaints of non-compliance with the order. Penalties for the violations includes imprisonments up to 6 months and a fine up to $1,000 or both. Are you out of your mind? The order also empowers the commissioner to order businesses to close in the event of non-compliance. Despite these potential penalties, the order contains a couple of protections for employers. First, employers must be provided with an opportunity to correct alleged or confirmed violations. Well, that's slightly better. The order also expressly states that it does not create a private right of action by employees for violation of the order. Not sure what that means. But this is an executive order. It's not law. F you, Murphy. F you and your stupid executive orders, you clown. You effing clown. Oh. Now, once we reelect Trump, we got to get rid of Murphy. We got to oust Murphy next year. It's going to be a long year in New Jersey, folks. A long year, Pineys. Let's go to happier news. Chemung mayor sees town's future as New Jersey's pot capital. Chemung. Mayor Michael DiGerolamo has high hopes. For his Pinelands community. It's New Jersey's voters support legalization of marijuana in Tuesday's election, which they will. Support the weed, Pineys. We want to be the pot capital of New Jersey, said DiGerolamo, who thinks marijuana could be a lucrative crop for Chemung's farmers and a source of job and tax relief for its residents. Yeah, until Murphy comes along to tax the hell out of it. But, take advantage while you can. Before Murphy gets his grubby mitts on it, trying to balance the budget for all these contact tracers and all these new regulations to come down to visit your business and fine you randomly. Well, Integrity Farms in South Jersey. I love it. And speaking of idiotic things Murphy has done, Phil Murphy's campaign for governor was a pledge to quickly end the state's revived bear hunt. Yeah, and there's a problem. Now we're seeing live bears everywhere. You'll remember my report on the bear and that he was being seen in Blackwood, which is near me, which is pretty far south, and it's suburbs, man. I mean, I'm not in the woods down here. I mean, we have some woods, but enough for a bear to live in, I guess, until he gets hit by a car. And that's the problem. So we got deer everywhere. Now we're going to have bears everywhere. We got critters to beat the band. Okay, Greenie, what do we do with all these critters? What do you do if you go out to your trash and there's a bear? There's no one you can call. You can't shoot it. So I guess you're just trapped in your house until the bear leaves, and hope that he doesn't decide to push his way in and eat your delicious honey, I guess. This is what mostly Democrats do. They pass law after law, or in this case, they repeal law, because they're virtue signaling. Oh, we saved the bears, everyone. We saved them. Yeah, they'll be the first ones to say, get rid of that bear. I bet you won't see a bear on his property. No. I bet if a bear shows up at Murphy's property, he'll have the cops gun it down. I bet there won't be an elaborate scheme to tranquilize and move the bear. I bet it'll be like, get it out. Finally, do we have any happy news? That's not about Tyrant Phil Murphy. How about South Jersey fall foliage? Forecasting current conditions. Well, it's fall, and the leaves are turning. And I have a message. Oh, it's from Sandy. Hi, Sandy, who's in the comment section. Here's the current New Jersey fall foliage conditions. Ooh, down south, we're at peak foliage. We're past peak everywhere else. Is it over already? Look how brightly red all these southern counties are. Let's see. Where's Camden? Camden's over here. We're in peak. That's where we are. We're in this county here, right outside of Philly. And this is South Jersey, Piney. So enjoy the peak. You know, you've got all these colors here, and you only got 2 on the map. So I guess we're mostly past peak foliage. Foliage? Am I saying that wrong? Foliage. Foliage? Foliage. Foliage. That's it. So get down to the pines if you want to see some foliage. Foliage. The peak of foliage is different times for different parts of the state. In early October, you can see a peak in Sussex County. In late October, as far down as Cape May. And that's where we are now. So I guess that's about it. Well, you know, quite frankly, up north, I mean, there's not a lot of woods. You know, I'm not in a woody area. See, this is Camden County here. It's pretty suburban. There's actually woods above us here in this area of the state, and then a lot below us too. So I'm in a fairly built up area. Not the most built up area, but built up a bit. Enough so we do have some woods. But, you know, not enough for bears and herds of deer everywhere. I mean, the poor deer are constantly getting hit by cars down here. You got to watch yourself. There's so many deer now. In fact, I was driving home. I saw a little deer on the side of the road munching away on the grass. It was so cute. But 2 nights ago, I'm driving and there were 2 deer chasing each other. And I swear to God, they were jumping in and out of the road. And I'm like, come on, fellas, get out of the road. And I'm beeping. But so I guess it's leaf time and deer time. And probably bear time soon, because soon we'll be living in a state which will be too busy virtue signaling to actually run properly, to actually like cull the herds of animals down here. You know, maybe we'll get to be like California too, and we won't cut any underbrush or do any back burning. So half the state will burn down, and then, you know, it'll be overpopulated with animals, starving animals that'll run out of the burning woods and onto our streets and into our homes. And, you know, there'll just be chaos down here. I guess that's the future from Tyrant Phil Murphy of Goldman Sachs, who owns 3 mansions.